Hello there, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, advocate, and certified trauma recovery coach from danaarcuri.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to discuss no closure after family abuse. And then at the end of this video, I will list tips to heal without closure. And so we must understand that many of us who have either gone gray rock, limited contact, or no contact with one or more people, we oftentimes don't get closure. And so we're going to talk about what this means. Now, the reason why I really believe that this is really credible educational content that needs to be discussed is because I've had so many people reach out to me and they ask, how do I heal? I don't have any answers. Nobody will respond to me. I don't know why. And they'll say it could be their narcissistic mother, father, siblings. It could be an intimate partner. It could be their boyfriend, their girlfriend, someone who they were dating, etc., etc. Lots of variables in this. And so you may relate to some of what I'm going to share. But so many people are asking me, how do I heal? How do I move on? How do I get through this traumatic event, especially if it was a very toxic, abusive, psychologically unhealthy person? And I'm going to first say that I validate everything you've been through. As a certified trauma recovery coach, I believe that we need to build awareness on this topic, which is why I'm sharing it today. So let's move on. After we are either low contact, no contact, or we went gray rock, we do have questions. Why did this person gaslight me, manipulate me? Why were they a pathological liar? Maybe you're asking, why did a certain person cheat on you? Why were they constantly deceiving you, unloyal to you, mistreating you, bashing you, and then they had smear campaigns against you? So again, all of this is very valid, and we need to understand that oftentimes when we have these very unhealthy dynamics, and that could be family dynamics, relationship dynamics that are very, very lethal, typically we will not get closure. And so know this, number one, you're not alone. Number two, there is still hope for healing and recovery and having happiness and having wonderful dreams fulfilled and living out your passionate purpose. So what is closure? According to wordnik.com, they state, closure is the act of closing or the statement of being closed. A bringing to an end, a conclusion, a feeling of finality or resolution, especially after a traumatic experience. And then on urbandictionary.com, they say, closure is to gain a sense of resolution, whether it is to be mental, physical, or spiritual. And then, I'm back to this whole thing on, but why didn't we receive closure? And so we have to understand there are some people who will never admit the truth. They will not self-reflect. They will not take a close look in the mirror and examine their own selves and all their bad behaviors. So there are some people who are very toxic, psychologically unstable, and they don't do the hard work of evaluating their own self, of going into therapy and getting help, nor do they care to make any positive changes in their words, actions, and behaviors. Therefore, they will not be moving forward in their life. But you, my friend, have the opportunity to not only heal, but to educate yourself, to move forward in your life, to make some beautiful improvements, whether it is physically, mentally, spiritually, in relationships, finding someone who really is loving and supportive and kind and transparent and authentic. And so please know that there are a lot of really good people out there and that you will make new connections. You will move forward one baby step at a time. Closure is any interaction, information, or practice that allows a person to feel that a traumatic upsetting, or confusing life event has been resolved. The term has its origins in Gestalt psychology, but it is more commonly used to refer to the final resolution to a conflict or a problem. Relationship closure is when you, and again, whether you're the spouse, the intimate partner, or you're the family member, didn't discuss why your relationship ended. And so let me kind of rephrase that. I'll clarify what I meant. What I'm saying is there might be an intimate partner who you are no longer in a relationship with. Maybe you were going steady. Maybe you were dating. Maybe you were married. Or maybe it's your toxic family unit and you have walked away from very unhealthy ties with these people. And then afterwards, there was no resolution. Nobody really gave you an explanation about why they did what they did, including bullying you, harassing you, stalking you, manipulating you, and abusing you in many, many different ways. Of course, this could be mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and on and on and on it goes. So, in most cases of family abuse, narcissistic abuse, and sibling abuse, there are no genuine apologies nor any closure with these people. We have many questions that may never be answered. Even if we wanted the truth, we must understand that these toxic, manipulative people, they're not honest, they're not transparent, they're not genuine nor authentic, and therefore that means they will never give you a truthful answer. They might dish out a lot of lies, and there could be a whole string and web of lies, and you've probably spent decades dealing with that. But if you really want some answers, sometimes we have to look within. We have to look within, and we start putting the pieces to the puzzle, and we start realizing, oh my goodness, this manipulation and this abuse and this unbelievable betrayal by this person had gone on far longer than we had ever even fathomed. Typically, we don't realize how bad it was until we're no contact and we have a long, long distance from the perpetrator or perpetrators. And I know in my case, and mind you, there's more than one perpetrator. I mean, come on, people, you all know my story. I'm like an open book over here. But, whether it is the toxic family members who I'm no longer in contact with, we can understand that there are no answers. And at this point, I don't want lame excuses. I don't want to hear one more single lie. I don't really care to hear an apology, and I really don't need closure with anyone. Instead, I choose to heal on my timeline using holistic modalities, standing strong in my boundaries, and moving forward in this beautiful, transformative pathway that brings me so much peace, healing, and hope. And so we can understand that the need of closure often centers around a need for a missing piece of information. Again, consider it like a puzzle. There's a lot of missing pieces. You want the answers. You want to put the pieces together. But see, sometimes we can't because they don't give us the truth. They'll never admit the facts, and instead they will deny us our own conscious reality. It is normal to want to know why someone said or did something to you, especially if it was extremely abusive, toxic, manipulative, and outright criminal. We want to know, why did they psychologically abuse us? Why did they betray us? Why did they traumatize us? These are the questions that can go unanswered. And yet we can understand that when we start looking into the life lessons, we can walk away with a lot more wisdom, with a lot more knowledge, with a lot more understanding. And if nothing else, I do validate what you have been through. What constitutes closure varies from person to person. It's highly dependent upon the context surrounding a stressful event. Examples of closure include receiving an apology from someone who committed a crime against you. Receiving financial compensation for an injury, and let's bring up financial abuse. A lot of people have shared that they have been abused financially. It may have been your intimate partner, your spouse, your ex-spouse. It may have been your brothers and your sisters who stole your family inheritance or trust fund. And it could be also pretty much anything else in regards to someone hoarding the finances within your family, not giving you legal information, etc., etc. Another reason why closure may not happen is because they never told you facts that you had a legal right to. And so, for example, a lot of you have shared your story about how your mother or your father, or maybe it was your aunt, or maybe it was your cousin, some relative passed away, and yet your family of origin never informed you. They never called you, they never emailed you, they never even included you in anything to do with the funeral arrangements, the memorial. A few of you shared that you believe that whoever wrote the obituary for, and most of the time it was your parent, that they excluded you from the obituary, as if you were not even living and were never even born or not even part of the family, or they purposefully misspelled your name or said something malicious about you in the obituary. Next, we can understand that conducting a ritual to mark the end of a relationship, like burning photos, writing a letter that is not sent, and so on, can be really, really healing. Okay, so here we go. So the other day, I was reading my old journal, and I came across a letter that I wrote to my narcissistic mother. I'll be the first to admit that it's not easy reading that letter again, but yet it was validating, and it did give me some form of closure, because I was able to read it, and there was a lot of years between when I wrote the letter and then now reading the letter. And so I come to this letter and I'm reading it, and I see it in a new light. And the reason why is because when I wrote this letter, I was at a different place in my life. I wasn't who I am today. As a certified trauma recovery coach, I am more educated and knowledgeable and wiser about toxic dynamics and relationships and the entire healing journey. And so when I read this letter that I wrote to my mother, and of course, no, I did not send it to her, it really was eye-opening. And the one thing I could say is I realized how much I've healed. I am so appreciative, grateful, and just so humbled and thankful that I am in a different place today at this moment, that I have really done the hard work of healing. And that is why I really believe it is helpful to write letters to people who hurt us, who traumatized us. Do not necessarily, send it. I don't always mean write a letter and then send it. Actually, I think it's unproductive to send it. Why? Because there's still no closure. So many people said, I did make that call. I did write that letter. I did get in touch with fill in the blank, mother, father, sister, ex-spouse, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, on and on. And they said they ignored me. They didn't write back. Or they sent me a very, very hateful phone call or text message and told me to never get in touch with them again. And so we're back to no closure. We're like in this circle going around and around. So here's the thing. Little tip. Write the letter. Don't send it. And then get your match or get your lighter and light it on fire. That's right. Light it on fire. This is a beautiful ritual that I do. So anything that I believe that I need to release, and it could be negative energy, negative people, those who are no longer part of my life now. Oftentimes, I will write a little letter stating whatever it is that I am releasing, and that I am energetically on a very, very spiritual level, not just physical, but spiritual level and emotionally, releasing this person, releasing them. And after I write it, I light it on fire, it burns, and I take those ashes and I bury them in my backyard. And it's actually very cathartic. It's very therapeutic. There's a lot of healing involved. And it helps us understand that we could take back control of what has happened, that they no longer have control and power over us. No, instead, we get back in the driver's seat. We are empowered. And by God, we have control over our lives and the people who are no longer in our lives. And we have good cause for walking away from psychologically hateful, abusive, malicious people. And so we can understand this. It's really important to seek emotional support. Now, it could be by a licensed psychologist, a licensed therapist, a certified trauma recovery coach, or just a trustworthy person who is trauma informed. Of course, make sure that they understand the type of abuse and trauma that you experienced, because if they have a lack of education, they could do more harm than good. So you need to have a good fit with whoever you are working with to seek emotional support. So when you don't receive closure after a relationship ended, you may have a wide variety of emotions. Now, again, they are valid. All human emotions are valid. So you may feel confused, hurt, grief, loss, sad, mad. Now, understand that sadness and anger, even confusion, is part of the grief and loss stages. So there's a lot of stages with grief. A lot of times before we ever get to the acceptance stage of grief, we're still dealing with the other stages, which could explain why you might feel angry or sad, or you kind of bounce between both of those, or you get stuck somewhere else in a stage of grief. Again, there's no judgment here, and there's no timeline on grief. I always say grief is like the ocean. It ebbs and it flows. Sometimes we feel like we're drowning. Other times we feel like we're staying afloat. But you do what you need to do to seek that emotional support and to take care of yourself. Next is another reason why we don't receive closure after a relationship ended, and we have all these different feelings and they're just kind of bubbling up, a roller coaster of emotions. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. This is very common. And so you might feel violated. You might feel disrespected. You might believe that one or more people have disrespected your healthy boundaries. You may feel invalidated. Someone may have projected their nonsense and toxicity and false beliefs onto you. You might feel ignored, minimized, and denied a final resolution. And you might feel re-traumatized. And we can understand that if someone continues to repeatedly say things that are false accusations about us, they retaliate, or they create smear campaigns and continue gaslighting and manipulating, we can understand that, yes, we may be re-traumatized. Now, if there's nothing else you learn in this video, let it be this. If someone is habitually gaslighting you, manipulating you, stonewalling you, silencing you, and hurting you, the key is to break free of these dynamics. Break free, my friend. End the relationship. If you need a restraining order, seek it. If you need legal help, you go chase after that legal help. You go get on the phone. You make your calls. If you need to report someone to the police or the FBI because you feel threatened or unsafe, please reach out for help with your local authority and do what you need to do to stay safe, because your safety comes first. So what does closure accomplish? Really great question here. People seek answers and explanations. We want to know why our relationships couldn't be restored. We want to know why they didn't end with logical answers. And I know a lot of you probably have a lot of questions for me, but let's continue. Finding answers does not necessarily end the pain. So here it is. This is what happens. When we have distance and a long time after being away, separated, and maybe we went no contact with these people, what happens is we do get more insight, we do get more wisdom. Oftentimes things kind of start bubbling up, memories, triggers, flashbacks. Again, this is a normal trauma response and it's part of the recovery journey. Sometimes it helps to journal what you're experiencing, any insight you get, and typically you will start getting some answers. And so you might say, but why did they mistreat me? Well, because they were toxic and abusive and they're mentally unstable. So that's one of them right there. So really start seeking within you how you can find peace of mind even if you don't get closure. Next is that others find that closure may simply be a starting point for moving past a painful event. Though the trauma is not resolved. So you might still be going through a trauma healing process. This is not a marathon. This is not overnight. It could take months, years, decades, and a lifetime to go from barely surviving to fully thriving. So be patient, my friends, and give yourself compassion, empathy, and safe space along your trauma healing journey. Next is that we cannot always rely on the legal system to receive justice or closure in some cases. Of course, not all cases. It can really vary from circumstance to circumstance. Closure is a profoundly transformative experience, though. It can help you process and face and move through your traumatic event. For an example, a survivor of abuse may need to confront the abuser and see them imprisoned before he or she can feel safe. Now, again, let's just say this was sexual assault. I can understand why you want justice. I can understand why you want them behind bars, and I really hope that you do get justice. But in the case that you don't get justice, in the case that the legal system fails to defend you and protect you, the person who is the victim of a violent crime, please seek closure regardless. Excuse me, let me reword that. Please seek healing regardless of no closure. Okay, so again, a closure might not come. It's okay. We could still heal. We could still transform. We could still be enlightened. But here are some tips to seek for potential closure. Change your environment. You cannot heal in the same environment and where you were sick. You cannot heal in the same toxic environment where there were toxic, abusive relationships. The key is to change your environment. That means to leave the abuser, the perpetrator, etc., etc. And by God, your safety comes first. And understand, if you stay in this very unhealthy, psychologically abusive dynamic, you may never get closure and you might also be in harm's way. So again, your safety comes first. Number 2, write a letter to whoever it is who you are seeking closure. Obviously, if there's more than one person, maybe you want to compile a letter with a whole list of all the names. Do whatever you need to do, but write a letter. So one way to deal with the end of a relationship without closure is to write the person a letter. So express everything that is inside of you, the good and the bad, the ugly and the beautiful, the positive and the negative. Be upfront, be honest, be authentic. And then the letter can be as long or as short as you need it to be. And you might even take days to keep adding to it. And then there's that question, should I send the letter? Should I not? It's really up to you. I can't answer that question. It's far too personal, and I don't know you. I never met you. And your situation might be extremely delicate and complicated. What I can say is that it really is therapeutic and cathartic to light the letter on fire, burn it, and then bury it in the ground. It's extremely empowering and liberating and freeing to just release. Get that toxic junk out of your body. I really believe on an energetic level that trauma is truly negative energy enmeshed in our cells. It's proven that trauma is not just in our brain. There's been a lot of medical studies, a lot of scientific evidence that trauma is truly within every cell of our body. So, there's that whole saying, the body keeps the score. This goes back to epigenetics and the body and mind connection, cellular memory. Do your research, people, it's real. Next is explore new horizons. So consider your interests, your strengths, your passions, and whatever sets your heart on fire. Explore new hobbies, tapping into your creativity, taking classes, traveling, spending time in nature, or joining a meetup group or a support group with like-minded people. Next, seek spiritual growth for your emotional well-being. So one great way to deal with broken relationships and to heal your trauma is to pursue spiritual growth. And oftentimes when we deeply connect to a higher power, and remember, for everyone it could be different, we can understand that we find peace of mind. We feel emotionally supported and protected. And for me, some of the most empowering acceleration in my healing journey was on a very spiritual, energetic level. And it was the most healthy way for me to release anything that I felt was extremely negative and traumatic in my life. There's a lot of holistic modalities. My new book, Soul Rescue, has this huge list of professional resources, including holistic modalities, if you'd like to check that out. Last, choose to heal on your own terms. You are the boss. You are the CEO of yourself. Please know that receiving closure is not a prerequisite for healing. You can choose to heal on your own terms. You have the power within you to make positive changes and improvements in your life, with your health, in your relationships, in your finances, and all these different things within your own life. It could be professionally, personally, physically, mentally, spiritually. It starts with your subconscious mind. What you believe really does matter. So I want to end on this note. There is a lot of power in our subconscious mind. If we believe, and we are saying this, and we are speaking this and stating that we will not heal, and we're speaking negativity about ourselves, our situation, and our future, and our health, and our well-being, and if this is something that is conscious or unconscious, you are actually bringing it into your own conscious reality. There's a lot of verses in the Bible, but I'm not even going to go there today. I'm just going to get to the gist of this. What you think and what you say comes into your conscious reality. So if you're telling yourself, you're consciously telling yourself, I am sick, I am not well, I will not get well, I am not loved, I am not supported, and you're saying, all these negative things about that you can't heal, this is causing you more harm than good. Technically, you're telling your subconscious mind that you will not heal. You're telling your subconscious mind extremely pessimistic phrases, words, and negativity. And again, it's extremely harmful. So we need to start feeding our mind. And I am speaking consciously and subconsciously. We need to speak life, love, protection, safety, harmony, unity, good health, vibrancy, new beginnings, transformation, all kind of things, abundance, hope, prosperity, and on and on. Start speaking life, love, and all these positive words into your own life. And these could be daily affirmations. These can be through journaling, etc., etc. But the end result is this. What you think is what you get. And so consider what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're believing. If you want to heal, especially without closure, it begins with what you are saying, what you are doing, your lifestyle, your belief system. And sometimes we have to do the inner work. We need to dig deep and decide, is there anything within me that's blocking my recovery? And if so, how can I release it? How can I change my thoughts, my words? And the first step is building awareness. The second step is empowering yourself and speaking all the positivity. What is lovely, what is kind, what is graceful, what is harmonious, etc., etc. So today, know that you do have the power within you to heal, and it begins with your subconscious mind. And then from there, you will be transformed. Believe it, you will see it, and it shall be done. It is guaranteed. And so it is. And today, share with me, did you or did you not get closure with one or more unhealthy relationships? If you did get closure, I'd love to know how this took place and what happened. If you didn't receive closure, how are you doing? Do you have emotional support? Feel free to reach out to me and share your stories down below. And then you could check out my books and website and certified trauma recovery coaching at danaarcuri.com. Thank you. God bless.